Hey everyone. Fortunately, I don't think I have any issue edits or corrections or anything that I need to update for this episode, so we can get right into it. I am honored. My name is Zachary Weiberg. I am honored to be doing the intro for Out for a Kill, maybe the worst movie I've ever seen. All right, who else do we have here today?
I'm Aaron.
I'm Hans.
And I wouldn't go that far.
I wouldn't go that far, but I'd go right up, maybe just under that far.
It was close. I will not lie. There were a couple gems hidden in here that kept me from saying it was worse than Ticker. But it came really close.
It was really close. But I'll tell you one thing. Ticker was just straight. It's such an easy comparison because Ticker was just straight bad. This one was bad, but I laughed a lot. Not when I was supposed to. But I was having a good time.
Hey everybody, welcome to Times a Tick and the Ticker podcast.
But you can't check your six. It's kind of like, taking a screwdriver to a gunfight. What's happening? Just like on top.
I think every episode since Ticker we've talked about I think every episode since Ticker we're going to have to talk about Ticker because it's
going to be a while that we're still talking about
It is the yardstick. That's a good way to put it.
How bad a Seagal movie can get, because this came really, 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 really close. This is a very close second for me.
Maybe something else will take
movie.
the crown at some point and will be worse than Ticker, but I think we're going to be referencing Ticker for a while.
I really hope it doesn't. I really hope that
Although
Ticker maintains its crown for the next 35 films.
I'm gonna be 35. I'm gonna be honest, I'm a little disappointed. I came here thinking oftentimes we are opposed on these, and I thought maybe I was like praying, I was like, oh, maybe we're all gonna agree on this, like, can we just all agree on this? And then based on what Hans said, I don't think we agree on it. I think
we agree. This was a terrible movie. It was absolutely awful.
But you said that you were like laughing the whole time.
I was laughing the whole time.
I was not. It was so bad. I was bored out of my mind. I was praying for it to end 10 minutes in.
Believe me, I kept checking how long I had left.
Okay.
This one went on for... It is exactly an hour and a half long. It's like a minute or two less than what we usually get, and it's just unbearable.
Okay, good. Because last week, Aaron and I kind of had a fun time, even though it was bad and Hans didn't. I was hoping that this would be the great unifier, that we would all just hate this. It was boring. We wanted it to end. I think Hans sounds a little more positive.
So you know what? But... Last week we talked about how I had just come off watching the Bourne series. Yes. And then we watched, what was last week's movie? I can't even remember the name.
Last week's movie was The Foreigner.
That's right. And I don't know. I think I was just in a different mindset. I think I was trying to take it a little too seriously, trying to understand what was going on in the movie, and that was my mistake. This week, I didn't do any of that. Didn't try to understand what was going on with the movie. Didn't try to analyze anything that happened. Didn't try and wait, that doesn't make sense. Yeah, I just, I just kind of sat back and let the movie happen in front of me, and you know what? It was still terrible. But I had a better time watching it.
It's like you read about video games and stuff. People talk about bullet hell video games and how after you play one for long enough, it just becomes this zen, almost meditative experience.
Yeah,
there's just so much stuff flying at you that you.
So you're saying you entered the Steven Seagal flow state?
Yeah, I found Zen. I was doing mental Tai Chi along with the just horrific overt Orientalism going on in this movie.
Yeah, it was pretty bad this time. I think this is truly Steven Seagal already, even 2 movies in, he had his whole acupuncture / incense treatment. So he's definitely leaned towards that Orientalism for a long time, but this is probably the worst.
It's definitely the worst.
Oh, we get Shaolin monks. We get Chinese laundry. We get drug dealer, hard drug dealing Chinese gangs. We get a katana in the final act, which is not Chinese, but whatever. There is
because Steven Seagal is a fusion. He is a blend. He is a nice mix.
He's the Pan-Asian supermarket.
I cracked my knuckle.
Actors.
I literally held my knuckles up to the microphone. I'm gonna have to do that again because
I'm
swirling
ice in front of my microphone.
Should we all do it at the same time? Should we all crack our knuckles in the mics at the same time?
You can't.
You can't.
I can't crack my knuckles.
Okay, wait. I can't remember who it was. it might have been like the Green brothers, like John and Hank Green. I remember seeing a video one time where these guys were on stage and they're like, okay, we're going to have everyone in the audience crack their knuckles at the same time. And it was the most viscerally disgusting noise possible.
I'm confident I've told you this before. Years ago, I went to a Bo Burnham show and saw him live. And he had the entire, like live in the room, he had the entire audience in his whole auditorium crack their knuckles all at once. And it was the most gut-wrenchingly awful noise I have ever heard in my life.
Ugh. And it's crazy how we're finding any excuse not to talk about Seagal.
So let's, Zach, can you hit us with that plot?
Oh, the synopsis?
Yeah.
Let's see if you can figure this one out.
Well, okay, this one actually, similarly, I kind of enter my flow state, like Aaron was saying,
it's
in a
deceptively
bullet
simple.
hell. Yeah. Like, so, the first step of the bullet hell
is.
is that you're trying to hit stuff. The second, when you evolve in the bullet hell, you're, like, not even trying to hit stuff, you're just holding fire and, like, just knowing to dodge. The third step, you're, like, just following a pattern that you can just discern from it. I very much, this is the case. Like, in the first time, I think when we talk about, like, the first, like, 4 or 5 movies, we're, like, trying to figure out the plot. Then, like, in the next couple ones, we're, like, just trying to, like, know the main beats. I think at this point, it's just, we're in the flow.
Just got
We're not shooting, we're not dodging, we are just whipping and weeping. Okay, Steven Seagal. His name is not Steven Seagal. His name is Professor Robert Burns.
Was it?
Although,
Because, like,
I'm trying to think.
We've talked about how unmemorable these character names are.
This might be the least memorable.
I think
so
this
far.
is the least memorable. There was
nothing stacks up to Gino Foligno.
No, I mean Gino Foligno is going to be stuck in my head forever.
Honestly, it's like Gino Foligno because that name is funny, and like Casey Ryback just because like he had those for like the 2 somewhat decent
at least
movies.
we got 2 of those.
Yeah. Nico Toscani, I think.
Nico Toscani.
Nico Toscani.
This one, I don't remember any character actually saying his name.
Someone says Burns. There's at one point they say like, "Oh, Burns is a real pain in our side
like
or something." But normally they call him the what do they refer to him? It sounds almost like a made up slur, but it's not really one. The Guilo.
Yeah, it means the ghost
professor
or whatever.
The ghost. Okay, I did not know what that translates to. Oh, okay. I see. It is a Cantonese slang term for Westerners. Okay, I was not familiar with that. Although whether this type of usage is offensive is disputed by both Cantonese and Westerners. Interesting. So the like, Guilo professor.
It's like gringo.
Yeah. So Professor Robert Guilo Burns is in China. This is his specialty. He studies Chinese artifacts. It's very interesting because this doesn't, like, we've seen in movies past, it's kind of weird. Like, it does, like, flashbacks into flash forwards. Like, it does, like, weird things. This one kind of has a weird pacing, but it's all taking place in real time. He's there for a dig. Then he comes back home to accept an award, and then he goes back out for a dig.
So, I want to say, of all the movies, I have the most notes on this one. Like, I'm going to hold up my notes to the camera. I wrote so much about this movie.
Oh, okay. Dang. We will let you get. Oh boy, this might be a long
and one of my notes is, what is the chronology on all? Like, he's traveling around the world like 10 times in this movie.
Oh yeah,
over the course of like a week and a half.
That's something that I noted down too. They bounce back and forth. We'll get to it. Let's get to the synopsis. I'm sorry.
Well, and this is also, it's funny that you say that though, because this is the one movie that, like, at the start of every scene, it tells you exactly where and exactly when it is taking place. Like,
p.m.
It's doing this kind of, military, like, this place, this time. I just was ignoring those. I don't care. I wasn't following those, but I would be interested if, like, somebody got, for whatever godforsaken reason, had the will to do this, to actually put out a timeline of these things and see if it's even physically possible for them to be like at these different times. I don't think it can be.
Because I remember,
like you said, this takes place over a weekend or something.
Yeah, like at the end of the movie, the jump between like the second to last and the last scene, it's like he goes from, I think he's in Paris, and then he ends up in Massachusetts like 8 hours later.
Yeah,
and there's just no way, unless he had a supersonic jet like gassed up and ready on the other side of the building he was in.
He is effectively just teleporting from place to place, and I think you have to accept that.
Yeah, it's all because he has to get revenge before his wife's funeral.
Yeah.
Well, I guess
Yeah,
we haven't
they're
really
on a
gotten
ticking
there,
clock, but let's...
That's the reason for the ticking clock.
That only starts
It's
ticking like halfway through the movie, but...
It's like a completely arbitrary one, like a deadline he just set for himself. It's not like anything happens after a funeral. It's just so he can say, like, I'm going to get my revenge before she's in the ground. That kind of thing.
I'm
Well, 'cause he
sorry. I'm doing what
promises
I
to
always
his-
yell at you for.
He promises
But
to
I
his
appreciate the
father-in-law.
self-awareness.
But
He makes
anyway,
the promise.
we're still doing the
self-aware
plot
king.
synopsis. We're just jumping
Wait.
around.
Did you say he promises to his father-in-law?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
At the funeral, right before he's attacked by the Shaolin monks.
Wait, was that... I thought he was just making that promise to his assistant's father that was killed. Not his wife's father.
No, it was his
Thought he was
wife's
just saying...
father.
What was that?
That was his
It was
wife's
his wife's
dad.
father.
Oh, I thought this was because his assistant is
I
killed,
thought-
and I thought he was like saying, "I'll pledge, I'll get revenge."
well... Yeah, no, that was his assistant's father. You're right.
Are you
right.
sure?
Yeah.
Hold on, I'm gonna totally cheat. I'm straight up just gonna. Oh my god,
No,
half of the
you're
description is just sane characters. Yeah, his assistant
You are
Louise
correct.
killed. Okay, cool. Oh my god, I'm amazed that literally more than half of the Wikipedia description is just like naming characters. Okay, anyway,
There are a lot of characters in this movie.
kind of.
Well, there are a lot of people on screen with names.
Yeah, that's how I describe it. Okay, so here we are about like 2 minutes into the movie. Okay, so he's at a dig site because he's an archaeologist, a professor of archaeology. Sure, he's whatever knockoff Indiana Jones. He's Ohio Jim, and he's out studying Chinese artifacts. He specializes in the Han Dynasty, I believe he says. He comes back to accept an award, the prestigious Winthrop Award, and then he goes back out on a dig. And there's some shady characters there. So they're using his artifact, like, shipments to smuggle heroin, I believe. And there's a whole thing, they really emphasize, like, oh, he signed off and sealed it. And then a guy totally, like, breaks the seal, opens it, puts stuff in there and closes it. But that's still incriminating because the signature's on it, I guess.
Yeah, sure.
They try to make a run. They're getting chased by some bad dudes. This isn't a very important thing, but something that stuck out in my head. It was very funny that Professor Robert Burns says, as him and his assistant are trying to make the run, he says, like, oh, are the keys in the Jeep? And then they get into a Toyota. I don't know why that stuck out in my head.
Yep.
They're driving for the border. There's some very funny, early 2000s modeled, like, bullets in slow motion, like, hitting the back of their car. It's like when you look up a YouTube tutorial on how to do like motion tracking, it like looks like one of those.
I've compared these movies before to like an arcade shooting gallery game. And like Time Crisis or like the Terminator 2.
Or like Time Crisis 2.
Or like Time Crisis 2. Or we can just name more shooting
or House of the
gallery
Dead.
games. Yeah, and that it looked like it was just a clip from one of those.
Mm-hmm. But one of the bad ones.
Oh, so bad. So bad.
His assistant on this site gets shot, and they get to the border and are surrounded by like 50 DEA agents, and Robert Burns is arrested. He meets another prisoner, and they talk for like 2 seconds, but he's going to get referenced later.
Okay. I know. So we've already talked about the Orientalism, and we've talked in the past about Steven Seagal's racial sensitivities. This was pretty bad.
Sensitivities?
Yeah.
This
is pretty bad all around. This is pretty bad. It like hasn't been this bad since probably Marked for Death.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot about Marked for Death. That was
when
pretty raunchy, huh?
When like every single person was like a voodoo witch doctor or something. Like,
yeah.
This is pretty bad.
Just for our dear listeners' context, there's one black character in this entire movie. He is arrested by the Chinese police on the border of Kazakhstan because he was selling weed.
Yeah.
And he's with Steven Seagal for all of 2 seconds.
Yeah.
and
then he's
then
going to get referenced in a completely dumb throwaway line like
an
hour later.
Best friends.
And I don't even know if this is just the copy that we had, but I swear like there was like it felt like an editing mistake. Like I had to go back because their conversation just seemed to get cut off halfway through.
Yep.
I don't know if that was just the copy we had or okay.
No, that happened to me too.
No, there was a lot of that in this movie. That the edit, it seemed like it was edited very poorly, but it really wasn't.
Half of the dialogue was definitely recorded later.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, that's one of my biggest points. Yeah.
So many.
Going,
it's like
we'll
a
get there.
character kind of facing to the left, and you don't see their mouth, and they have a line of dialogue, and they clearly were not talking. Like when they told us.
It's not even that. It's like they specifically wait. They wait until a character's not on screen, especially in the beginning during the dig scene. He's like, you'll see a shot of his face and then a shot of his partner's face, and they don't say anything. They're in complete silence, and then it'll show a shot of the ground, and that as soon as the shot changes
a wide
to
shot.
look at the ground, or a wide shot to look at the sky or something, that's when the dialogue happens, because it's all voiced in. It's like voiceover,
And they do that the entire time, and it's so disorientating because it
it's
feels
awful.
It feels almost like when you're watching a dubbed movie and like none of the dialogue lines up, but like that's not the case.
A lot of it looks like that too, because in some places where
Yeah.
it's like it's not a wide shot, but it's like, I guess it is a wide shot of them in the distance, and you can tell that their mouths aren't moving, or maybe they are moving and they're not really moving with the words, but they're far enough away that they figured they could fudge it.
Yeah.
It's so bad. Everything about it. It's like
very
a high
Sonic
school.
Adventure one.
It is like a high school quality movie, but
Yeah,
but this was like a real movie.
after the last one. What was the last movie?
The Foreigner.
The Foreigner. My first note for Out for a Kill. Oh, I'm sorry. My fourth note. I forgot. I wrote some other stuff because we forgot that we started with this movie with a quote from Sun Tzu's Art of War.
Yes.
Not
Not since Arthur Miller has there been a worse like random opening of a what was that, Out for Justice. Oh, interesting. That Out for Justice had Arthur Miller. Out for a Kill has Sun Tzu, just like a random extraneous quote at the beginning of the movie.
I honestly didn't even notice. I must not have been paying attention.
It doesn't
started
matter.
with the quotation, all war is based on deception, or all war is based on the art of deception, something like that, which doesn't
nothing to do with
apply
the
to the
movie.
film
No.
in any way.
There's no deception. He
not at
says,
all.
"I am going to kill you and get revenge on you," and then kills them and gets revenge on them. Anyway.
Oh,
we're
my
like
fourth
10
note
minutes-
was this is a significant drop in production quality. I was surprised,
Oh yeah.
like how bad, like it felt like I actually looked up. I went to Wikipedia and I looked up how much money they used to make this movie. It was $14 million.
Oh, that's way too much.
I find
money.
that hard to believe. There was some
way
That's
too
what
much
Wikipedia
money for
says.
this movie.
There was absolutely some kind of shady accounting going on.
I think they were actually laundering money in this movie about
100% I
laundering
think
money.
so.
I'm pretty sure that's the only reason Steven Seagal is still making movies.
Well, I'm almost
they're
certain of
using
it
it
at
as
this point
the-
in the year, 20, anything after like 2005, but I
It's-
think it must have started here. Well, because it's just, even you compare this to The Foreigner, which was also straight to video with the same exact director, and it's like leagues different. That one didn't even look great, but we were somehow blessed with the production values of that one compared to this one.
Yeah.
Anyway,
With
we're
all the close-up
15
shots of the
minutes
guy
into
with the
movie.
cigarette hanging out of his mouth.
Yes, he reminded me of how
That
good he
was I was so upset because there was no character like that in this
Nope.
movie. I was hoping for some like saving grace, something that would have made it kind of redeeming, but there just wasn't.
No.
They definitely tried that with like the two cops that are kind of the two agents that are kind of following
Okay,
Seagal. They
but
try
not
to have some
not
friendly-
really.
Okay,
though.
hold on. We are like 10 minutes in the movie. Let me finish the recap.
Yeah, I'm
'cause
sorry.
so then we know what's
we
going
got to
on.
get through it.
Okay,
Have
So
fun
they
editing
run-
this one.
they're trying to flee, get shot at, assistant dies, he's arrested, and then the DEA or FBI, whoever, basically says like, okay, the big guy in charge is the guy that's smuggling drugs, the guy at the top of this. We've been trying to get him for a while, so let's just like, even though we don't really fully believe he's innocent, let's let Seagal go. Let's let Professor Robert Burns go back to America because he'll somehow like get us to this end point of finding the bad guy that we want. Okay, now I need it. He goes back to America. Because they're using him as bait. And then I think he just basically starts tracking down. So,
They tracked him down. He went home to his wife.
That's right.
and they tracked him down at a restaurant.
Yeah, and they basically say, "Hey, just forget about us."
The
And Seagal
Chinese
said,
gang, not the police.
"Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, the drug smugglers." And they say, "Hey, just like forget about us, and we'll leave you alone." And Seagal goes, "Okay, cool, bet." And then they say, "Because if you don't, we will kill your dog," which I don't think we ever
He
saw.
doesn't have a dog.
Nope, he didn't have a dog.
I just want to make sure I didn't miss that. We will kill your dog, we will kill you, and we will kill your wife.
Mm.
It was a very weird order, so I just remember
so
that
he's
order they said it
because,
in.
and then we will kill your wife. Like,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
And
I mean,
so they
That
said,
way
just,
you don't have to watch.
yeah, I guess.
I guess.
Your dog that doesn't exist, then you, then your wife. and they said like, okay, just forget about us. And Professor Robert Burns says, sure, okay, have a good one. And then they say that. So then he just starts punching all of them.
Yeah.
He just gets into a fight there. So it's on like Donkey Kong. So they plant.
So now they're going to try to kill him, his dog that doesn't exist, and his wife.
Well, yeah, I guess. But they kill his wife first. They go out of order. They didn't follow this order they laid out.
That's true.
And the thing I do need to say, actually, that the whole time we're talking about this, we talk about the guy up top, like the cartel of these guys or whatever. There is towards the beginning, a very flashy, stylish, headache-inducing way where it introduces all of them. So it's literally just like
it's dudes. So long.
It's 11 dudes sitting at a table. And if you might think, oh, there's like 11 dudes that they're going to introduce like the main three and then everyone else who kind of meet along the way. No, each one gets like a close-up. And what is it? Like literally
like
a name,
the
area
pause.
they run, and their hobby, their favorite hobby.
Like it's not even like their name where they operate out of and like what their main operation is. It's like their name where they operate out of and then just like a fun fact.
Like this guy likes French restaurants. They're literally doing icebreakers here with these guys.
Yeah, and they pause it with the like freeze frame while they have the typewriter style information go over, and it takes way too long, and it goes over each and every one of them.
All 11. It literally feels almost like if you've ever played the games like No More Heroes, it almost feels like you're playing one of those games that's designed around like boss fights, like Metal Gear Rising or No More Heroes. Like these are just all the different bosses that you will then like fight for the next like 10 hours.
And that's I like the idea, good setup. Terrible execution.
Horrid.
Because it's these characters that do not matter. That he fights them all, like he kills them all throughout the movie, but you don't even know. Like it doesn't matter which one he's fighting. It's not like the thing they run is relevant or their hobbies are like legitimately. I'm not even joking when it says that like this guy loves French restaurants. This guy is known to hire weird assassins. Like that could factor in the plot. Like half of them could theoretically factor in the plot. Like this guy only works with gunmen, but the other half are like. What it like loves, German expressionist films or something, like completely unrelated hobbies. They're like dating profiles for each of these guys. Like it's you're swiping through on Tinder. Oh, he controls this part, and he loves dogs. He loves.
Well, it's like the writers of whom there were 3 on this, like one of whom is uncredited.
Okay.
It's like the writers like sat down and thought, okay, let's have like each of them have a thing, and then they got like 4 guys down the list and decided, are we doing 10? We're doing 10 of these.
Oh, yeah, there's 3 of us writing this. We need to do at least 10 bad guys.
I can't think of 10 things.
And
make them all relevant to the plot.
The thing is, it almost feels like they're trying to do like a Kill Bill, like trying to go for like kind of a Kill Bill, like all of these villains are like super cool and unique and like iconic and you remember them.
Yeah.
But this movie came out 2 months before the first Kill Bill.
Oh my gosh.
Oh really?
So
Kill Bill executed on that premise a heck of a lot better.
You actually remember Lucy Liu's assassin character, like she's cool.
Well, because they're like each individual and unique characters. It's just they're
generic mob boss A, generic mob boss B.
That's interesting.
No. No, and they all
have like, unique tattoos for some reason.
They all have like one line of like a kind of phrase, like 2 or 3 words from this phrase that will become important later.
Cryptography.
That isn't cryptography. It's just he kills them in the right order, gets the words from their wrist, and it spells out a phrase.
But it's just a riddle.
Okay. Anyway, we're really bad at doing the plot on this one.
We are, but
so
I think
there's
that's okay,
so was the movie.
We're doing the plot in the same way that the movie
that's fair.
Did the movie. Like it's
So these 11 douchebags all want to kill Seagal, and so he just kind of kills each of them. Well, so they blow up his house, they kill his wife. It is a very, very bad home explosion. Like it just looks awful.
The house was 100% fake. Like if you look back at the picture of the house and the garage beside the house, that looks like it was made of cardboard. Like this is a miniature set.
Wait, okay.
That they blew up.
No, I'll wait for later. Get through the plot, and then I want to talk about the miniatures.
Okay. We find out at some point that Professor Burns, before he was a professor, he was a thief of Chinese artifacts.
Like a cat burglar.
And he was in prison for this, and that's when he got his degree. But I don't understand this. He got his archaeology degree while in prison, and then he changed his name. So I kind of wonder why, like, you got your degree, but then you changed your name. Like, wouldn't the degree be in the old name? So did you also have to, like, fake the degree? And then why'd you have to get the degree in the first place? Just fake the degree?
One of my notes on this movie is the most unbelievable thing about this film is that someone got a PhD and a job right out of the American prison system.
Right? Honestly. And then he's like the most prestigious professor in the world. They talk about how great he is.
Even though he has no resume older than 8
Right.
years. And
I think this is the first one where he doesn't have a CIA background.
Yeah, no, I don't think he has any, because he was a thief and then he's the professor. He doesn't have any kind of CIA,
well,
FBI, DEA.
he wasn't just a thief. He was a world-renowned burglar who went by the code name The Ghost because he was so subtle.
And just try to picture Steven Seagal as a sneaky cat burglar. Picture him like rappelling
waddling
down,
his way.
The way he just walks into rooms and starts punching guys indiscriminately.
But
like
that's literally the movie. But then that's the rest of the
Like
movie
a
is he
ghost.
just kills 10 guys, and then he gets to the head guy, and he's like, "You sent them all after me one by one, knowing they would fall, just so you could have a bigger share to yourself."
Okay, but like, I'm so
Aaron's
mad about
face
this.
just got really red.
I'm so mad about this.
Okay.
Because
That's
that
pretty
could
much
have been
the
a
movie,
cool
so
movie.
you might as well go ahead.
That could have been a cool movie. Like,
Okay.
I wrote like a lot of notes for this.
Oh, well, real quick, he throws a katana to cut the dude's head off while the guy's outside, like, waiting for a limo, and the limo just drives off without him. That was very funny. And there's something after that, after he kills... Oh, he opens the guy's safe using the riddles he got from the tattoos on each person's arm. Inside the safe is just, like, all the evidence they need. So he's killed everybody, like, all 11 guys in charge of this, but then he still goes and he finds Officer Tommy Ling to give this evidence to, so she can do her job. Oh, by the way, her partner died. There were these two like DEA agent officer people that were following just kind of one step behind Seagal the whole time, like Carmen Sandiego, and just being like, "Oh boy, he really killed these guys here." And then, going to the next place, they're the ones who arrested him at the beginning. The dude dies, but the gal lives, and now she has all the evidence to take him down. So that's the movie. Roll credits.
Okay,
Offensive
thing I
music,
wanted to
please.
talk about.
Okay, go ahead.
Because there was,
Let's hear it.
once again, there was a cool movie concept somewhere in here that they just decided to not do, to mention in the movie. Let's not do that, and let's do this other, way less interesting thing. So I said, okay, and one of my notes is, so the final confrontation reveals what could have been a cool concept, that the villain knows that his henchmen will die, so he sends them after the hero one by one, instead of all at once. He has 10 of these guys who all have their own, like, private armies. And instead of just saying, okay, let's coordinate and, like, get this guy, which would have been really, really easy at 100 different moments in this movie, he sends them each out one at a time to try and kill Steven Seagal. And so a cool concept, which is mentioned at the end of the movie but not acted upon at all, is that the leader does that intentionally so that he can, like, consolidate the crime empire under
Professor
himself.
Robert Burns posits that he did this intentionally. I don't know if the guy actually confirms that.
No, I think the head
Does he say
crime guy
something
is
like,
just kind of a bumbling idiot.
Oh, okay.
Much more interested in having, like, riddles and smoking cigars with his
making
friends.
each of his subordinates tattoo one portion of a riddle into their wrists for some reason. That opens the safe that has the evidence against him. Oh, sure. Yeah.
Sure, whatever.
As you do.
Because he's a video
you
game
do.
villain. He's not, like, an actual
Right.
person.
No, these are literally like you get collectibles from each boss fight, and you need those to like
It
get
felt
like the
very-
good. It's like you need that to get the good ending. Like you can defeat the boss without it, but you need all those to get the good ending.
Well,
of
throughout the
video
whole
game.
movie, I kept thinking this feels like a video game. Like, he'll just
It's very video gamey.
Seagal will just comment on stuff around him, like, "Oh, I better go check that out." Like, he's giving hints to the player
I need
to,
solve
like,
that puzzle.
go over and look at
I
this
need to
desk
solve
or
that
whatever.
puzzle. Oh, I need to solve
I
that
honestly,
puzzle.
I didn't even really think about it like that, but now that you say it, it makes perfect sense. That
can't
like,
quite
this
do
movie
that.
is basically
I
that.
can't quite do that. Oh, I can't quite do that.
Well, like, one of the mob bosses that he kills, who he, like, confronts him, and then the mob boss runs away and runs immediately to his safe house, which is just like an open warehouse with no doors. And like, he runs in there, Seagal kills him, and then just looks around, and there is laying on the mob boss's desk, just open, like, a record of all of their crimes.
Oh yeah,
And, like, the key to the ancient riddle, which opens the safe that contains all the final evidence.
I can like literally just imagine the like pickup animation and it just like disappears and is in his inventory.
And then you can like pan around on the catalog there. It's like, oh, because as he's translating it, there's a scene later where like he's sitting in an apartment or something, like a hotel room or something, and he's translating it out loud. Like he's saying, oh, this is a reference to this ancient Chinese general who came up with this specific form of cryptography. Like, it's really weird.
Very LA
Very
noir.
strange.
I'm picturing him with his notebook. But yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I actually so much of this. I just watched this movie like within the last few hours earlier today, and I've already forgotten so much of this. Like, I think whenever I said like, oh, and then he just like kills the 10 guys, it's because that's like 50 minutes of the movie that I just don't remember. Except
each one is the same.
Except at one point he's fighting a guy, and he like throws the guy against the wall, and the dude just starts climbing on the wall like a spider, and nobody else does anything weird like that. It's just this one guy.
Yeah, there's like one wire fight in this movie in a barber shop, which was kind of cool for like a minute.
Yeah. He straight up just becomes the fear from Metal Gear Solid 3, and then like it's over.
Yeah. It looked like a scene out of the X-Men movie, like the first X-Men movie is what it felt like to me.
Yeah. No, I see what you mean.
Mm-hmm. My biggest takeaway from this movie, the one thing that I sort of captured from every single part of it, from beginning to end, I guess two things that kind of roll into the same thing. One, how in the world is Steven Seagal the best actor in this movie? They're all terrible. Every single one of them was just awful.
Oh my gosh,
and he was also awful, but I think he was the best of them, and that's so depressing.
I'm actually amazed because I think while watching this, I saw the worst moment of acting in any Seagal movie, and it wasn't Seagal himself. No. It was his wife, the woman who plays Maya. I don't even want to say the actress's name because I'm not trying to drag her. Like, she was in a terrible movie. She was,
in a terrible movie, and with a terrible part in a terrible
movie. So
like,
I don't even want to say this is her
good
fault.
Opportunities here.
So I'm not even going to like put her in blast here, but it's just when Seagal gets home at one point and she says, "Oh, I'm so glad you're back. I missed you," and then just takes her dress off so her boobs are out, and then they hug, but Seagal like refuses to do more than like halfway engage in a hug, like with his arms at his side, like still fully dressed in his jacket inside his house.
Because that's how this happens in every movie.
Yeah, that's how Steven Seagal conveys emotion.
But her delivery was all pretty awful. I'm sorry.
In her defense, I'm looking at her IMDb page. I'm not going to say her name again.
Yeah.
But she is native Hungarian, and she does seem to have had a fairly like she's still making movies and stuff now.
Good.
It's all in Hungarian.
That's awesome.
So I don't know how popular any of these movies or TV shows that she's in. Like, she was in 23 episodes of some TV show that I am not even going to attempt to pronounce.
So that's true. This was probably not her native language. Like, it's
no. Well, she was also in an episode of CSI. Why was I think everyone has been.
They're in the Super Mario Brothers movie or CSI. One of the two.
And if you were, even if you were the world's best actor, if you were in a scene with Steven Seagal where you had to take your shirt off and like hug him, I think you wouldn't do that good of a job either.
But no. I'm just saying, from not doing too much research, she seems to be doing okay.
Also, I would absolutely 100% support it if she like got the script and was like, okay, I am like kind of similar to like the ending monologue of like the theatrical cut of Blade Runner. She's like, I am phoning this in as hard as I can. I am letting you know that I think this is boring garbage trash. I'm gonna go with that theory actually, that it was on purpose. She's like, okay. I'm giving this movie exactly what it deserves.
Yeah.
So it's that everybody in this movie was worse than Steven Seagal, which just was such a bummer.
Well, to be fair, he like wrote the movie around himself, and he's still not great.
That's true.
He has every advantage here, and he is still barely better than anyone else in the movie.
He gives himself every advantage possible. Like we talked about, like the barbershop fight with the wire fighting. He begins the wire fight sitting in a barber chair. Like the first several action beats of that fight, he's sitting down, just flailing his arms in front of himself.
They literally wrote a movie for him and just barely he ekes out a performance slightly better than anyone else in there. So let's acknowledge that.
I'm not. You're absolutely right. It just was one of those things that halfway through this movie, I had this realization that he was somehow the best actor in this one, and it was so upsetting to me. But more than that, kind of along the same lines, everything that happens in this movie, every single beat, everything, no one conveys any emotion at all.
No.
They're all straight-faced. His wife dies? Oh, man, that's a bummer. Guess I gotta go kill everybody to get revenge. Like, no one has any emotion in anything.
I think worth pointing out is the fact that nobody has any emotion, and also, or possibly because of this, or I don't know, one causes the other, however this works, no line that any character says appears to really directly connect to the one before or after it. It feels like a lot of people saying things in a vacuum, and you're like, I guess that was kind of a scene, but no one's actually responding to anything. Like, someone will say something,
they were all done in voiceover,
and then somebody else
shot.
Yeah, I mean, probably, but somebody will say something, and then somebody will say something, but somebody is not saying something like to somebody because of what they just said. So I think they literally it's almost like I'm picturing like the way they have like sometimes like voiceover artists do video games where they're just given a list of like 50 lines with zero context. And it's just like, these are just the things we need recorded. Just say these things, but you don't know the line that was said before it. So you're just like, oh, I need to get revenge. But am I sad? Am I angry? Am I determined? Like, you don't have any of that information. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if that's what happened.
We've totally skipped like the narration. There's a narrator in this movie at the beginning and just like randomly sprinkled throughout, and then at the very end.
Am I completely blanking on this?
So
the
lady
female
detective
agent,
Tommy,
right? Yeah,
who I definitely thought her partner was just giving her some sort of racist nickname. No, the character's name is Tommy.
Was it really?
I swear, the whole time I was thinking he was gonna, he's actually a bad guy or something. I was assuming there had to be some kind of interesting twist there. No, it's just like two kind of vaguely incompetent agents that are following Seagal around the whole time for no reason.
Yep. Nope.
And every time they show up to his like the scene of the crime, well after he's already been there, and they say, "Man, what a mess! This guy really knows how to leave a mess." I don't know.
Okay, except my favorite one. I can't remember the exact context. I forget which one it happened for. But Tommy, she says like, "Oh, should we like do something?" Like, I don't know. She says something like, "Oh, should we do this? Should we do that? Should we like do something?" And the other guy, Ed, I guess is his name, he goes, "Nah, forget it. It's Chinatown." And that made me so mad. They just wrote the most egregious Chinatown reference in this movie. But he said that, and I said,
he says, movie. "Forget it, Tommy. It's Chinatown."
This movie's so hard. I hate this movie. That made me legitimately mad. But I don't have any other notes. I honestly forget this. Yeah,
there's this narration, and
sure.
Okay, so the actress who plays Tommy, which I don't want to drag her either. I mean, English is not her first language.
Bad movie, bad direction.
Bad movie, bad direction.
Nothing's in anybody's favor here.
She was just like handed. She reads it like she was just handed a sheet with words on it. And told read these words, and that was the only direction it.
I don't think anyone got a script. I think people just got a series of disconnected lines they had to say.
Yeah,
honestly, you're probably
that's the only explanation for the delivery or the flow.
Because all comes back to it being like a video game where they're just reading off a script with alone in a sound booth, not talking to anybody.
Because she just literally just says the words, like she gives it the most general inflection that she can. Because what are you gonna do?
Boy, you sure are the best at what you do.
Yeah, like I never met a man like him before.
Yeah.
Or again. And then the movie ends. Like, I don't... like, what was she supposed to do?
I completely forgot that there was a voiceover to this. It really is like Harrison Ford.
There's it's like Blade Runner. Yeah. Oh, the miniatures. I said I was going to talk about the miniatures. We haven't talked about the miniatures. Sure. So there are several miniatures. Watching how the miniatures are used in this movie really makes me appreciate how miniatures are used in other much better movies.
Okay.
Like how in... Okay, say all that you want about David Lynch's Dune. The miniatures
and I will.
Thank
you. Thank you for inviting me to do so. I have
honestly, hey. welcome to Arrakis. This is the Dune
Welcome.
fan podcast. It's just me and Zach. I know Hans probably.
Welcome to David Lynch Did Nothing Wrong Except for the 1974 version of Dune, the David Lynch fan cast.
Why would you think I would have something against Dune?
I don't. Why, have you?
Oh, sorry, 1984. Jesus, not 1974.
Oh my goodness. Have you watched or read Dune?
I haven't read it. I've watched the new one. I didn't watch the.
Oh,
original.
you need to watch the David Lynch Dune.
You don't.
I don't know. I liked the new one. I've heard. I've heard mixed things about the old one.
It's.
I don't know.
Okay, I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about one of the very few parts of David Lynch's Dune that I really, really do like.
Okay.
The miniature work is immaculate.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, he does incredible things with forced perspective and things. And I think in this movie, Out for a Kill, you see where that can go horrifically wrong. Because at the beginning of the movie, after like the opening super slow-mo for no reason monologue narration, where they're like walking through the club and they see all the dead people and they have like flashbacks to stuff that they didn't see. Yes, that's how the movie
didn't have anything to do with
starts.
the rest of the movie.
Well, it did, because I was waiting for that to come back up, because it looked like, so at the beginning of the movie, like as the narration is going, which we also skipped, so there's a narration at the beginning, as Tommy is like narrating the events of the movie about to happen, she and her partner, whose name in this movie is Ed. Tommy and Ed are like walking around this nightclub in Eastern Europe somewhere. And like everyone's dead.
I like that it's always Eastern Europe. It's never any specific place. It's either Paris, China, or quote unquote Eastern Europe.
Just one of those.
They're walking around, they're like looking at all the the bodies and stuff, and they're trying to figure out what's going on. And then right after that, it goes to China near the Kazakhstan border. And you have like this long pan over to like an ancient Chinese tomb, except the scale of everything is way off, because you're looking at something. It's like this head buried in the sand, and it looks like it should be about the size of a human head. And then the camera turns, and you're seeing like a little doorway, and you see Steven Seagal there, like standing like in the doorway, like doing archaeology on the other side of the door,
doing the best archaeology in the world.
Like he looks like a little fairy or something. Like he's like like he's a Lilliputian or something. Like he's just like this tiny guy. It didn't make any spatial sense. So whenever there's a miniature, and so we already mentioned like the house when it gets blown up, he's like standing outside between the garage and the house with a flashlight looking around, because like car alarms and stuff are going off. So he's like, oh, something's going on. And it just looks like he's tiny. Like they used like a tilt shift camera, to make it normal things look miniature. It didn't look like it was a miniature that was made to look normal. It looked like a normal house that they used camera tricks to make it look like a miniature. And it really took me out of it.
It was just bad.
And then the house blew up, and I was really out of it, because it looked like they just like, I know this wasn't possible at the time, but just importing like After Effects, whatever the standard flame effect is.
They went to the Unity store and bought a flame pack.
Yeah.
The amount of like really bad green screen
in
this movie.
Well, also, okay, so I have a question for Aaron.
Yeah.
So, looking at the editing of this movie, I think last time you made a good point about it would do these like weird, these like super fast cuts, and then like a guy would get shot, and you pointed out that it was like in relation to a character's anger, like their kind of internal feelings acting irrationally. Yeah. It doesn't happen as often this time, but there's definitely some times where it's doing that to like an even worse degree. Like it's cutting between things that are in the same place, and also just like randomly to the guys like in their evil douchebag boardroom, like the 11 dudes sitting there. Yeah, I can't remember exactly when it happened. It's towards the end. There's like some fight or something, and it's just doing these rapid cuts. Did you find any reason why it does that other than just to be like flashing obnoxious and give me a headache?
No, I think it was meant to. So here's when I was watching that. It's near the end of the movie that this happens. Yeah. And it's like, you can tell it's at the time of the movie where like you're supposed to be gearing up to like the final bad guy. And the final bad guy has like this really short, like he has this moment, like a Thanos moment, where he's like, fine, I'll do it myself. He goes out like a chump in the end of the movie, unlike Thanos.
Oh yeah, it's awful.
It's really bad. But he has like his Thanos moment, fine, I'll do it myself. And then we're getting to the end of the movie, and then there's like this rapid montage of like basically the movie up to this point. And so I think what it's supposed to signal to the audience is that it's a summary of everything that's happened so far in the movie and how it led to this point. The problem is that the script is so bad that all of those moments that it points to, which should be leading to the final climax, don't. They just don't. There's not a story here. It's just Steven Seagal bumbling around the world and happening to run into the people who are tangentially related to the murder of his wife and then killing them. Like, okay. There's not... It would work if there were a solid through line for the movie. Like, if he is going from person to person, there's like, as each of the mob bosses dies, he says like the name and location of the next mob boss. But there's not like an actual investigation going on. There's not like... it's not like LA Noir.
He does kind of. At the end, after he kills each one of the big bad guys, he does kind of name the next person, but only in a weird interrogation thing where after he gets to the next mob boss and he fights all their guys and then chases them to wherever they need to go to in their like office in the warehouse, with all their evidence cleanly stashed all over their desk. He then fights them, almost kills them, interrogates them, and they always give up the answer to where the next guy is
immediately.
And then he kills them, and then he moves on. So it's kind of there. I did a bad job explaining that, but it's kind of there, but not really.
But so what? Yeah. So like, there is. You're right in that there's like the way the movie is structured is that there are basically 10 fight scenes. There's a fight scene. Steven Seagal finds one of the guys who's responsible, chokes him out, and then gets the information about where the next guy is, and he goes to that location, and then he has a fight scene. Repeat that 10 times. That's the movie.
Yeah.
The problem is...
And also random scenes of these investigators, like, kind of trying to do their own part of the investigation, but having, like, nothing to do with it.
No, they're just following
none of them
around.
are, like, capped. None of them have any kind of, like, solid beginning and end. They just flow right into one another.
Yeah, it's... The movie's doing Tai Chi, and it really bothers me... like really amateurish Tai Chi, because there's no flow
like
here.
First time attending Tai Chi in the park Tai Chi, where you're like, oh, this is this is a move? Okay.
Because like in a more competent film, he would have some way of discovering the name of the next guy, or like he would. So let's do. This is my fan rewrite of Out for a Kill. He discovers the riddle early. Like he discovers the riddle early. Let's keep the stupid like story.
By the way, this riddle, it's like a crane flies above the water, and
because there is danger below.
Yes,
that's the riddle. Something like that.
And what a riddle.
Whatever. It doesn't matter. You can make it whatever you want. And so let's keep the stupid story convention of each of the 10 mob bosses has a part of the riddle tattooed on their arm. That's dumb, but we know what kind of movie this is. It can have that dumb thing. That's fine. So in my rewrite, he figures out the riddle at the beginning of the movie. And so he's trying to figure out which of the phrases of the riddle is responsible for his wife's murder. And he's not really trying to take down the mob. He's just trying to find which of them is responsible for his wife's murder. And so he's going around and he has to find one, interrogate him, and then he ends up killing all of them, searching for his wife. That at least would have structurally worked. The movie does that, but backwards. Like, he doesn't even know that there's a riddle until we're like 3/4 of the way through the movie.
Mm-hmm. He's just like reading tattoos on guys' wrists, being like, "Huh, that's weird." Okay,
that's weird. And then he tries to like find the next guy. I don't know how he I watched this whole movie, and I know that I pray that this information is in the movie, and I just missed it because it was buried under 1,000 quick edits.
Truly, death by 1,000 cuts. Like literally,
I don't. It's death by 1,000 cuts. I don't know how he knows the name of the next guy.
I remember like twice a person saying, "Oh, it's this guy's name," but I don't remember him doing that for every guy.
No, so like he keeps asking because he's looking for the guy who's responsible for his wife's death, who is named. Wait, I'm gonna find it. Silo.
Was it Silo? Yeah.
Silo is responsible for his wife's death. Except he has to fight through like 9 guys to get to him, but I don't know why. Like, why doesn't he? I don't know how he knows that it's Silo. I watched this whole movie. I'm not gonna watch it again.
Absolutely not.
I think I know.
If I missed, what did I miss? Please tell me what I missed.
Thank you.
Because I need the key to unlock this movie.
At one point, pretty early on, the Tony.
Yeah, Tommy.
What was her name?
Tommy.
Sorry,
Tommy with an IE.
Okay, cool. I'm sorry. I can't remember all these characters.
Good.
No, they're like 100 characters. It's okay.
At some point along the line, she shows up and talks to him for like the first time because they're keeping back, trying to keep their distance and let him be the bait.
Yeah.
At one point, she talks to him and he like essentially apologizes for making him the bait and getting his wife killed. And she says she'll do whatever she needs to help him, and she gives him some information on the mob boss. I think that's when it happens.
Okay.
Okay.
That has to be it.
But I hope that's it.
Again, I answered my flow state. I'm just like, okay, he bumped into the next guy because that's what the movie wants him to do.
Like, it feels random.
Yeah.
Oh, it definitely does.
Almost a bit like a movie that actually does this, like, does that same thing, but like better on purpose, like Scott Pilgrim versus the World. It just feels like he's just kind of minding his business. He's like, oh, maybe I'm going to go home and like, jerk off and play video games. And then somebody's like, I am your sworn enemy. Time to fight. And he's like, who are you?
Yeah, like, one of the evil exes shows up and like
it feels like that,
to
but
a
not
duel.
on purpose. Yeah.
Well, because
I could have been watching Scott Pilgrim.
Oh my gosh. Welcome to Scott's Pilgrimage, the Scott Pilgrim fan cast.
Oh, that was a good one. Welcome to Edgar's Always Right, the Edgar Wright fan cast. Today we're talking about Scott Pilgrim versus the World. There. Had to have my own.
There you go. But like, okay, whoa, you just like really unlocked something in my brain because
I'm glad.
Scott Pilgrim versus the World and Out for a Kill have a similar. Oh my gosh, you need to see Scott Pilgrim. Yeah. It's actually my dad loves that movie.
Really?
Yeah. I was not expecting that when he told me.
He loves the whiny like 23-year-old Canadian loser.
It's got good
movie.
Music and the fight scenes are cool.
Okay, that works. That's enough. If that's enough for him, that's enough for me.
Yeah. He also loves like Wes Anderson movies. Loves them. Yeah, I know. My dad's cool.
No, but he also likes.
There's no arguing that.
But he also likes Above the Law.
Yeah.
Well, but we explained, back in
also, unfortunately,
the time that it came out.
And also, unfortunately, Aaron likes Above the Law, so.
Wait.
What is it they say about apples falling from trees? Anyway, go ahead.
It's a slander. But anyway, Scott Pilgrim and Out for a Kill kind of do have, like...
the same general structure?
The same general conceit.
Yeah.
That there's some sort of... There's a girl, and there's something about the girl which causes the guy who is in some relationship to the girl to have to fight a series of bad guys.
There's a big bad who's in charge of it that he doesn't even learn about until like 7/10 of the way through the movie, and like he just ends up accidentally working his way towards because he keeps stumbling into all the other minions.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, actually, it's very Scott Pilgrim.
This is the new segment that we discovered last week. My movie recommendation.
Oh no, I have so many for this.
I'm going to steal it from Zach. Instead of watching this movie, watch any other movie. But if you're going to watch a movie that has like a similar sort of story conceit, watch Scott Pilgrim versus the World by Edgar Wright.
Yeah, no, luckily you introduced that little segment just in time, the like, what should you watch instead of this movie? Because I have so many for this one. Like you said, at the beginning, that whole like gun shootout in the club scene that I completely forgot about. When we were watching last week's movie, it was kind of like, oh, this is a little weird. I'm trying to figure out what this movie is trying to be. I started watching this a minute in. I'm like, oh, this is trying to be like Hard Boiled. This is trying to be like any John Woo film. I know what this movie wants to be right away. And then it transitions to him doing the dig, and I'm like, no, it's trying to be the Mummy. It's trying to be the Mummy now, starring Brendan Fraser. And then like it and I lost. I'm like, I don't even know what this movie's trying to be anymore. It turns out it's trying to be Scott Pilgrim before Scott Pilgrim even existed. But while I was watching this, I'm like, okay, no, instead of watching this, I'd much rather be / you should instead watch any John Woo film. Hell, I'll even give you Mission Impossible 2 if you want. If you should be watching The Mummy or The Mummy Returns, probably not Scorpion King. Actually, Scorpion King is probably still better than this. I'm watching, I'm just like, you should be, like, I was thinking of so many, again, while talking about it here, comparing how video game it is, you know what, it's not even a movie, but instead of watching this, you should just play No More Heroes, or Metal Gear Rising, like these, like, boss rush video games. You have a much better time with any of those. So you can have Scott Pilgrim, because I have, like, 50 other movies you should be watching instead of this.
Yeah.
What about you, Hans?
I timed it, by the way. That beginning shootout goes from... Actually, I didn't time it. I have time stamps, so you'll have to help me with how much time it actually takes. But 3 minutes, 41 seconds to 4 minutes, 37 seconds. So that's almost just under a minute, almost a solid minute of no reloading, just like 10 mob guys constantly shooting Uzis into a room full of slow motion dying people.
It goes on forever.
It's like it goes on for less than a minute. Doesn't sound like a long time, but when you're watching mob guys get shot in a club, it's a really long time.
It felt like 3 or 4
minutes. I checked out halfway through this. I'm like, oh, we're still here. Okay. And then I started just like spacing again.
The only sound you hear is bullets. Like it's just gunfire for a solid 30 seconds at least. It felt like 3 minutes.
No, I'm not even kidding.
It's a really long
Half
time.
of the runtime of this movie, I was just kind of spaced out staring at the wall, like next to the TV. I'm not even going to lie. And I remember like spacing out and then spacing back in like partway through that gunfight that you're describing. Because then I was like just thinking about like Stranglehold. Like
the only reason I noted down the timestamps was because I was watching. I had this up on my like top monitor, and I was watching this while I was I don't remember what I was doing. I was doing something else just to get done out of the way so I could finish watching this stupid movie.
Yep.
I started it. I had that up, and after like a solid 30 seconds, I tuned back in. I thought, wait, we're still listening to shooting, so I had to rewind it and get the timestamp from when it started, and then I sat and watched it all again, paid attention to it until when it ended, and it was so long.
Yeah, no, and legitimately, I'm not even kidding. I was like doing email while watching this. I was like just scrolling Twitter. I was doing like everything like I could other than like watch this movie. So admittedly, if I really truly did the theatrical turn the lights off the phone away experience, maybe I'd remember it better, but like I did what I had to do to survive, and I will not apologize. I will make no apologies.
The first 15 minutes of this movie, I was eating dinner. I was like cutting into a chicken, really trying to get all the meat off that bone, because that opening sequence just took forever.
So long.
It did.
It
had nothing to do. Please tell me. You said earlier that it had something to do with the rest of the movie. As far as I saw, that opening sequence had nothing to do with the rest of the movie.
Because they go back to that nightclub like 2 more times in the movie.
I think it's...
They do?
I think it just like establishes that Ed and Tommy are kind of on the case. Like...
But it's given a timestamp like Sunday, and then the next timestamp we get is like a Tuesday.
Steven Seagal's character, like sitting on the toilet, like reading the back of the shampoo bottle, has a location timestamp. It doesn't matter.
Well, no, in my brain, that shootout was on whatever day, because it doesn't give dates. It just says what day of the week it is when something happens. Yeah. So the things could be separated by months.
If they expect me to remember and connect these things to each other as if they matter, you have another thing coming, movie.
Like it,
they also didn't those scenes or the bit in the middle there where they flash up what day of the week it is. Yeah. It's on there for like a quarter of a second and then it's gone.
You gotta
I didn't even have time. Like I if I wasn't really paying attention, I'd miss it. I'd see it up there, but I wouldn't have actually read what day of the week it was and be like, oh well, I guess it's Wednesday maybe. I don't know.
But it'll just say like 8:30 Tuesday in Kazakhstan. But like it won't say what the date is.
Eastern Europe.
I really almost need a timeline of like the first thing that happens and the last thing that happens, with like 3 lines for like each location: Eastern Europe, Paris, and America, and like just who is where doing what. Like,
so what I thought was going on at the beginning of the movie, when it just gave a timestamp with no date and just the day of the week, I thought, oh, it's all the same week, and we went back earlier in the week. So there's the shootout at the beginning of the movie. And then the next
I'm going to stop you. You already put so much more thought into this than I did. Like, it came up with, like, the day of the week and the time, and I'm just like, sure. Like, I didn't even think about how it connected to any other thing before or after it.
Well, so then I thought, the next scene where like a timestamp comes up, that was, like, earlier in the week, and the rest of the movie is going to be a flashback leading up to the shootout at, like, the strip club. And that
would be a much better movie. Oh my god, that would be so much better. That would be miles better. That would actually be kind of interesting to make that whole thing make sense.
Right? I was waiting for it, and then we get through an hour and a half of movie and it never happens.
They should just
The
give you
shootout at the nightclub is never mentioned again for the rest of the movie.
Aaron, if you're looking for another job, they should just give you a job rewriting like Steven Seagal movies. Like
I'm a script doctor.
Rewriting, re-editing.
that they give you the movie as it's like you don't write it. They give it to you and you just go, "Oh, just change this to here," and then all of a sudden it's a better movie.
I think I've done that every episode. Just
Yeah,
like
honestly.
I play script doctor.
You're very good at it.
Thank you.
Because I'm like, oh my god,
Hey,
yeah,
anybody out
that's-
there in Hollywood who wants to send me a script that you think is kind of trash, I'll think about it for a little bit and give you one suggestion.
Think about it for like 10 seconds and then just be like, actually, just move this here, and then it's all better. Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay. Where's my?
But wouldn't that make the
$50,000,
movie
please?
like way better?
Yeah, because it's actually
like,
building to something instead of just fumbling his way
Yeah.
through bad guy to bad guy.
Well, and it would make the timestamps make sense.
Yeah, and have reason to be there. There's no reason for them to be there. They're
There's no reason for the
teleporting from place
timestamps
to
at all.
place.
They don't
It doesn't
matter.
matter
They
when
actually
anything
make it-
happens.
The timestamps make it worse because it just made me wonder, how did he get
Yeah.
from like Beijing to I don't know, like Milwaukee or
Yeah.
wherever he was in like 3 hours? Like there's no
It really didn't
it's
make
impossible. That's a 12-hour flight.
any sense. I want to see the scene with Steven Seagal checking in his luggage. An American Airlines.
Well,
and-
he does have a private
waiting to board the plane.
He does have a private plane that he flies on twice.
Well, and
Like a
Oh,
charter
it's
plane.
not his though.
It's a charter
he,
plane.
Yeah, he hires a charter plane. It's a little Cessna.
Oh my
Okay,
God, I forgot about
the
this. It was
pilot
so dumb.
named Crash gets my
Crash.
vote for my favorite character in this movie.
Why do they call you that? Because I've never crashed.
Well, and that, so he's flying him at the beginning. He's flying the professor at the beginning, and he's like, oh, yeah, I never crash. Here's my business card. I'm going to be a relevant character later. So then later, Seagal needs a flight. He charters up this guy who, like, hops in. He's like, oh, yes, right away. I got you. 2 hours. Let's go. And then once they're in the air, he's like, wait, don't I know you from somewhere? Like, he doesn't fully recognize Seagal. And then I guess Seagal just knows that this guy is working for
Well,
the
okay,
drug
this
smugglers.
this is one of my notes because
Okay.
the reason Seagal figures it out
Oh,
is
yeah, that's
that he said the pilot Crash. He says, "Oh, you're that archaeologist I flew. I'm sorry about your wife. Like I'm sorry that
Yeah.
happened to you."
right.
And then
How
so
did you know about
Seagal
my
flips
wife?
out and like grabs the yoke and almost crashes the plane because he's like, "How did you know about that?" And I'm just thinking the whole time, like your house exploded in a suburban neighborhood. That would have been on the news. And
But no,
everyone
he's
would
right.
have
This
known
guy
about it.
actually, this random pilot actually is working for.
But he's 100% right because he's Steven
Yeah.
Seagal and he can't be wrong about anything in any of his movies.
To be
So-
fair, probably my favorite Steven Seagal interrogation technique is just threatening to do a 9/11 on the guy you're interrogating, like just grabbing the yoke of his plane
Jesus.
and trying to like steer him into the ground to crash. And
Yeah. So
he does this like 4
Something-
times.
something that we talked about like a few movies ago because we were coming up to, we are now in the post 9/11 Seagal era. It does not
Yeah.
seem to have influenced his movies in any way.
No,
Nope.
Like I don't think he.
it's 2003, and there's a scene where, in order to get information out of a guy, he is like intentionally trying to crash a plane.
Yeah, I don't think.
That feels weird.
They don't,
It
and they're flying
bothered him
over
at
like
all.
a forest and stuff. Like they don't show buildings,
No,
but
no.
still.
It's
But,
still very
like,
weird given the time and location.
I don't think 9/11 impacted. I wasn't expecting no impact. I was expecting a weird impact. I wasn't expecting nothing.
Well, if anything, I would have just assumed that he would do like the every villain is like from the Middle East for like the next like couple years after that type thing.
No, I think
That was my assumption. I mean, it was
Seagal-
wrong. It wasn't right, but that was what my guess was going to be.
I think just watching this movie, because this is, we should mention, this is the first of 2 movies out of his 50,
Mm.
which was made by Seagal's own production company.
Wait, really?
Yes.
Yeah.
I thought a whole bunch
Luminosity,
later on.
Luminosity Media.
Luminosity Media. The logo
Well, I
for
thought
which
he
is, I think, a
does-
sitting Buddha. But
Yeah.
Well, hold on. I thought he also owned, isn't it
Steamroller?
Steamroller that does
I think he's
a bunch
like-
of the later
I'm
ones?
sure he has like a stake in it or something, but I think like Luminosity is like he founded, like he runs it. Like Steamroller, I'm sure he has to be involved in some way because like they're the only
Steamroller Productions is a Los Angeles-based production company started by Steven Seagal
Oh.
in
Oh,
1990.
interesting. So this is one of 2 that was also made by his other company, Luminosity.
I
Media.
guess.
Okay.
But so he
Wait,
owned-
whoa.
Uh-huh.
The company was known as Luminosity Productions from 2001 to 2005.
Huh.
Okay, so he randomly
There
he
are-
changed the logo to like an offensive like Buddha statue for 2 movies and then to Steamroller.
There are 14 movies
Yeah,
of his.
yeah.
made
Because I
under
think
this.
like
Interesting.
a
I have to
decade
go
of his
edit that
movies.
Wikipedia page.
Yeah, no, because we're reading the same one. It just says, one of 2 movies made by his company Luminosity, which I guess is true, but it feels a little
That's
dishonest.
technically true. Yeah.
The others were made by his company Steamroller when it was like renamed.
Hey, public service announcement. Don't trust everything you read on Wikipedia.
Yeah, I guess. Well, okay, this is like in the last episode when I was reading off the IMDb facts, and then I learned halfway through not to trust these because they started saying some real ridiculous stuff. So practice some healthy skepticism with anything that you read.
But anyway, I think Steven Seagal, because he has I imagine he has pretty much total creative control over this movie, seeing as he owns the company that's producing it. He is so absorbed in his weird Orientalism that I really don't think like the Middle East concerns him at all. Like he doesn't.
I mean, that's fair. But I just would have assumed that they'd be like, oh,
care.
But like just for the money reasons, at least, like, oh, America's kind of super racist right now for the next couple years. Let's take advantage of that, like every other movie production company did for a while, and video game company, and just pretty much every other media, news, everything.
That's why, like, every video game made between 2001 and
exactly. Like I thought it was going to be
2019 is set in the Middle East.
I really thought Steven Seagal was going to be generic shooting like Middle Eastern people in a desert village, which I do know later on Sniper Special Ops will do
later on down the line.
But that's like 2014. I'm surprised he was a little slow to that. He's like, oh wait, we're being jingoistic towards them now. Okay, sorry guys, I'm 10 years late to that. My bad.
Well, I think he does this because throughout this entire movie, he like markets himself. Okay, let's talk about race relations. He like markets himself as like one of the good ones, basically. Like he speaks Chinese a couple times in this movie, which I do not know enough about Chinese to say whether it's good or not. But I actually
it's not good.
I'm going to guess that it's probably not, but I don't know for sure. But my evidence, the reason I'm guessing that it's not, is that I had a hard time telling the difference between when he was speaking English and when he was speaking Chinese, just because of the way that he mumbles. So like I have a hard time understanding what he's saying half the time.
Confused languages.
Well, I have a hard time understanding what he's saying half the time anyway.
Yeah,
so I just thought, he just flubbed that line.
No, when I was watching this movie, like anytime the volume levels were completely off the charts, like I was constantly like turning the volume up and down for explosions versus dialogue, even more than regular movies. And just anytime there weren't subtitles at a part, like the subtitles I had just like weren't 100%. I just had no idea what people were saying. Like especially Saul, I could not understand what he was saying without subtitles.
Nah. He just like flubs a line every now and again. Yeah. So I just thought, okay. But then I was really paying attention, like, oh no, he said something in Chinese right there. But
so maybe the thing I was using just didn't have subtitles anytime he spoke Chinese, and I couldn't even tell because it just sounded like mumbling.
Well, so that's one thing that I noticed. I didn't have subtitles, and usually in a predominantly, in a movie where the predominant language is English, and then they speak another language. That other language is put on the screen, not in subtitles, but like actually edited into the movie.
Yeah, baked into the film.
Subtitles in English, and that wasn't the case for this one.
No, yeah, so it was. Yeah, it was.
I had it was.
Oh yeah, in mine
sometimes was.
That had my
really.
That was one of my favorite lines in the whole movie. When we get to like favorite lines in the movie, it was delivered in Chinese and translated on the screen.
Oh wait, I think I know the one you mean. Because it's like on me too.
So I didn't actually. It must be the version of the movie that I have. Then, all right, that's my fault. No, because
Hans, we watched the same version. Sometimes it did. Some lines in Chinese didn't have subtitles.
Oh, some lines.
No, but I didn't have subtitles at all.
Huh.
I didn't even import a subtitles file.
Interesting.
Huh.
So that's on me. I take it back. We're good.
Okay.
Actually,
that's weird.
So speaking of, so Hans, what should people watch instead of this movie, and then we'll say our favorite quotes.
Okay, so you can edit this out if you want to, because this is going to be weird. I recently, for like the third time, watched Metal Gear Solid 4 Was a Mistake, the video essay on YouTube. I don't know why, but the maker of this thing, the creator, Steak Bentley, does such an unbelievably phenomenal job describing a video game in a series of video games that I have never played. I played Metal Gear Solid 5 like a little bit, but it's such a great video. And it's edited so well.
For anyone listening at home, it's like a 4-hour video essay that like basically reviews, like goes through the plot of Metal Gear Solid 4 and explains like what's happening and like what's going on, and gives just a, kind of synopsis
and why it was. why it was not necessarily bad,
But a mistake.
but just not, but a mistake for the series as a whole. Just the whole reason why it was made in the first place. I really enjoyed watching that, but this movie reminded me of it so much because the way he talks about the B&B unit,
Okay.
as you progress through like the boss fights at the end of each act in the game, and you fight the B&B unit, and how like completely disappointing each one of them is compared to what they're supposed to be, sort of, what's the word, like reprising from previous games a little bit, and how the mechanics just aren't as strong, the fight's not as interesting, and they just have an animal version of them for no reason rather than like a real like part of the character in previous games. For some reason, I was drawing parallels to that because I had just watched the video pretty recently, but also because I'm thinking, man, we just coasted from one boss fight to another with pretty much no reason and no exposition and no reason to know why we're here. And it just was very similar.
It's actually funny. I should have known that you were just rewatching that recently, because I got a message from Hans where he just says, wait, are Liquid and Ocelot the same? And I sighed, not because it was a bad question or anything. It was a great question, but I just sighed because I'm like, no, it like the answer wasn't dumb until Metal Gear Solid 4. Like Metal Gear Solid 4 made that a dumb answer. So
that's what I would say you should watch instead of that, because even if you're like me and you have absolutely no concept of the Metal Gear series, it's such a good video. And I know that has absolutely nothing to do with anything and nobody would actually care about it, but that would be what I would recommend instead of watching this.
100% I'm okay with you should watch this like 3-hour long like YouTube video essay about a game that you haven't played. I'm great with that as a recommendation. What is like a not that recommendation that you have? Like what's a movie or like a theatrical production,
TV show or a comic book or a video game or...
Man, I'll tell you.
What is a piece of old media you would recommend?
A piece of old media?
Well, it's like, new media.
It has to be old
no, just like new media. Not old. It's just that, the way people describe like, online YouTube content is like new media versus like
your
established.
Film degree is showing.
My what?
Your film minor is showing. Anyway.
Oh man, I just watched something recently.
Just say the Watchmen comic.
Hang on, where is it?
Because you should read the Watchmen comic instead of... You could just read that 50 times instead of watching any of these.
Wild Target.
Oh, Wild Target with Rupert
That's
Grint.
the one.
Oh.
With, Bill Nighy, Emily Blunt, and Rupert Grint. Phenomenal movie. It has absolutely nothing to do with what we're talking about. Not even remotely related to Out for a Kill, but it's a fantastic movie, and you should watch that instead.
Okay, that's fair. I'll take that.
I think underappreciated.
Yeah, I completely
would agree.
Forgot about that movie, I'm going to be honest. So yeah, what are quotes that we like? Aaron, I know you had one.
I have one, but I can't say it.
You can't does it have a swear in it?
It has a swear in it.
Send it over. I'll happily say it.
I know you will. It's delivered in Chinese, but
oh man, I wish I had subtitles. Go ahead, Zach. You'll deliver it with the better inflection than I can.
Aaron's quote was a character saying in Chinese, "You're f***ed now, white boy." I guess I don't know the intonation. Sorry, actually, for this movie, it would probably be, "You're f***ed now, white boy." Just
with no emotion.
My favorite one was towards the beginning when Steven Seagal's Professor Robert Burns is first arrested, and they're saying like, "You're smuggling all these drugs. We know it's you. Your fingerprints are all over it." And he says, "No, I'm not a drug smuggler. I'm a professor. I just won an award." Because it just made me think of like Vincent Adultman from like BoJack Horseman. Like, time to go to my job at the business factory where I do adult tasks. Like just his, like this is his understanding of what being a professor is. I'm a professor. I won an award. Like as if that has any, as if that sums up who you are.
There's that, there's the Parks and Rec episode. Where...
Well, that's
Leslie
not the attitude of an award
win.
winner. Ron, everything I do is the attitude of an award winner because I have won an award.
Because I won an award.
But like he uses as his defense
That's
against
exactly
like drug smuggling charges is, "I'm a professor. I won an award." Like it almost feels like he's going to be, "I do research and get grants," and just like vaguely listing off the general responsibilities.
But not teach.
No.
You never hear about any of his students.
Yeah.
No.
Or what he teaches or anything.
Hans, do you have a quote?
Yeah, he's talking. It's in the scene where he's talking to Tommy about, she's apologizing for them using him as bait and his wife getting killed. And he says it has nothing to do. I mean, maybe it does. I don't know. At the time that I heard it and I wrote it down, I don't think it actually had anything to do with their conversation. Someone just had this line and they really wanted to put it in the movie, so they put it in the movie. He says, well, my daddy always used to say, steal a little, you go to jail. Steal a lot, and you become a king.
Yeah. Well, no, because that's how it, that's what connects to his prisoner friend in jail that, had nothing else to do with the movie.
Yep.
Is what?
Because he says, you steal a little, you're a thief. You steal a lot, you're a king. Well, I had a friend, his name was King, and he was, in jail on false charges. The guy's, last name was King or something. That's where that guy connects.
I missed that. Well, that still has nothing to do with the conversation that they're having.
No, it does not.
Someone just had a really cool line in their head, and they were like, yeah, we'll put that in here.
Yeah, and it connects to this guy who was arrested for selling weed, whose, name is King or something somehow. I remember he connects it to that dude in prison, but, that's it. The guy's never brought it before or after.
I think instead what these Seagal movies should do is, during the credits, instead of trying to shoehorn all these cool lines that they thought of into somewhere in the movie, they should just during the credits, we've had comedy bits at the end of these sometimes as the credits are rolling, just have someone come out, one of the writers, just stand there with the script and say, okay, these are all the cool lines that we thought of that we couldn't figure out a way to get into the movie. You steal a little, you go to jail. You steal a lot, you become a king. We thought that was cool, we couldn't find a way to put it in. And just go down a list of one-liners that they thought of that they couldn't shoehorn into this. They didn't have a big enough story crowbar to get it in there.
See, counterpoint, what these Seagal movies should do is just not exist. They just shouldn't.
Well,
it's just not.
Take those lines, any kind of vaguely cool line, and just put it into a better movie with a different actor. That would be my vote, but
I mean, probably.
Yeah, what other... I don't have any other notes. I couldn't tell you anything else about this movie.
I have lots of notes.
Oh, Jesus. Well, okay, wait. Hans, do you have anything?
Let's hear him. Because I'm out.
So when he finally finds... This I just thought was funny. So when he finally does find Silo, who owns a laundry, which, okay, one quick aside before I go to my other aside. Let's juke to the right for a second before we go left. I think there was a different camera operator on set the day that they filmed the laundry for the first time. So the laundry is where they actually launder the money, which, okay.
A little on the nose.
A little on the nose. But, if Breaking Bad can do it, they can try it here, I guess. That was a car wash, but, same idea.
Yeah, the laundromat was where they made the drugs, and then the car wash was that laundered the money.
But just this scene where they show the audience the layout of this laundry. There's a big industrial laundry, and they just show there are people there who are counting money and things amidst all the machinery and things. But
it's just wads of piles of money.
Well,
yeah.
So
it's not organized.
1 minute, you get 60 seconds of someone behind the camera who seemed like they knew what they were doing. It just felt different. I encourage you just go back and watch. It's in the middle of the movie that you see the laundry for the first time. Maybe 2/3 of the way through that you see the laundry for the first time. I encourage you to just go back because it's shot totally differently. The color grading is different. The lighting is different. The way the camera moves is different. The way the blocking works is it's they had a different film crew on set just for that day, and they only got a minute of usable footage. But it is completely different for the rest of the movie. But anyway, when he finally finds Silo, he finds the guy who's bombed his house and killed his wife. I wrote in my notes...
And his dog.
And his dog, apparently. I wrote in my notes, there's a Chinese laundry in France with a Swiss bank account counting American money off a truck that they got in Eastern Europe.
What? For some reason, I didn't even make that connection, but you're absolutely right. I honestly didn't even notice, but it's all American.
Oh, you're right. I didn't even think because the location is completely irrelevant. I didn't even think about the fact that this is in Paris, and like you said, the only country not connected to this exact web in this exact moment is America.
Oh my god, this just got so much stupider. How did I not think like that? How did I not
Again,
notice
it's
that?
because it does not matter where you are. None of these locations.
Do you want to know why it's
matter.
even stupider?
Yeah.
Do you want to know why it's even stupider?
Yeah.
The street that the laundry is on is Rue de la Grue. Rue de la Grue. Grue is nonsense. It means nothing.
Okay. I was like,
They just wanted it to rhyme and sound French.
Rue de la Grue.
Rue de la Grue. They just wanted it to rhyme and sound French.
How deep these webs are woven. Again, this is like when we were watching Above the Law, and they just like for no reason, it's like you have like 14 different like countries like involved.
Oh, I'm very
in this,
sorry.
Like, case.
I'm very sorry, I was wrong. It does mean something.
Oh, okay.
It means a crane, like the bird.
Oh,
like the
very on the nose. A crane flies above the
Mm.
water because there's danger that lies below.
There you go. Rue de la Grue.
So what else? What other notes? I lied. I have one note left. I said at an hour.
Is it about his hair?
His hair? Steven Seagal's awful, terrible mullet in this one? No.
He had a ponytail for 30 seconds.
He did?
I missed that. I was spaced
I
out.
can't tell you where it is. He like sits down in a chair and he looks up like to the upper right hand of the screen, and you see just a little bit of ponytail at the back, but it's only for one shot. Did I see a ponytail? The rest of the time, it's free flowing.
I kind of miss the ponytail as opposed
Do
to
you?
the mullet. I'll be honest.
The weird
I do.
stiff mullet it's a little strange.
Yeah,
I
it's
don't want
weird.
the ponytail.
And it's
again.
like the weird stiff mullet would have been perfectly at home in the early 90s when his movie started, but we're in the early
okay, but the
ponytail.
ponytail. But you have to remember, whenever they do the ponytail, they
Mullets
have
are
like
way
some
out.
character, like some gal that has to like tousle, like play with his greasy ponytail.
Ugh.
So with the mullet, that doesn't happen.
Okay, well, you did. Oh,
You're welcome.
I forgot about that.
Hey.
Anyway, I'm sorry. What was your point?
Yeah.
Just that similar to like how you notice this laundromat just like seemed to be filmed differently. There was randomly the two like weird film moments that weren't even good, but like stuck out in my head. One was like the slow motion bullets we mentioned at the start of this, like the 3D model bullets. The other one was at 1 hour, 7 minutes, and 59 seconds in. There's this shot, and it's literally like 2 seconds long. It's a blink and you'll miss it shot. But Seagal's like approaching a bad guy. I think this is when they're like he's helping Tommy. Like they're in like a fight together, and then she goes to free Ed.
They're in like a heroin den.
Yeah, he like approaches this guy, and like it zooms in on the bad guy's eyeball, and you see a reflection of Seagal's face in it. So he like runs up to this guy. You see like the reflection of him in the eye, and then he like just punches the dude out. Like it's less than 3 seconds. But I was like, what?
Hold on, let me. I pull the movie back up. What's the time? 1:07:59.
Yeah. And it's just stylistic choice. It's not executed well. Like you can just tell, like in post, they like put this little image of him in the eye. But like I can just kind of picture the director like leaning over the editor's shoulder, like, "Oh, do a reflection. Yeah, that'll be cool."
Oh wow!
But it's blinking and you'll miss
catch
it.
that.
They never do anything like that again in the movie. It's
So,
very weird. It's not good, but like it's I think like a week from now going to be the only thing I remember about this movie.
Hey, let me throw y'all a curveball.
Okay.
Do it.
What did we think of the car chase?
Oh, that was actually the car chase overall was fine. It existed. There was like they have this car flip at one
It
point.
existed, and that's all it did.
But they did like
exist.
flip this car over, and that was actually like, oh, that's pretty cool.
So
The thing that stuck out to me the most, real quick before you move on, there was a lot of tire squeal.
Yeah.
Driving on mud and dirt.
Okay, just focus on the car that flips. That part was
okay, but there's a car that flips and gets squished.
Yeah.
So okay, here are my questions about the car chase. Where are they coming from? Where are they going?
No.
Where did they get these cars? Who is involved
from
in
the
this
dig
chase?
site to the border of the country?
No, not that car chase.
No.
The one later on. Not the car chase.
That's the Jeep.
Oh,
that's the Toyota
Which is
Jeep.
not a Jeep. That's the Toyota Jeep.
Oh, you're right.
No, later
like
on, there's a
2/3 of the
car
way
chase.
through the movie.
Because it's like after that fight scene I just mentioned or something.
Yeah, there's a car chase
You're
in Eastern Europe.
And that's like right at the end. I forgot about
state.
that.
I don't care where they came from. I don't care where they're going. I'm just accepting it.
He's just like...
happened.
He has one of the fights with one of the 10 big
huh?
bads, and then there's a car, like you were in the middle of the car chase, like in media res, car chase. Like,
Nope.
It just begins.
Don't make me.
No, he does,
consider
because he
the
says that was right after Ed gets killed.
Yeah.
And he comes out of the building, Ed gets shot, he saves Tommy, and he says to Tommy, take care of your partner or something like that. And then he just walks out of the shot, and then all of a sudden they're in cars.
Yep. And they're like driving through some industrial zone. They're like sliding around. I do like, that was kind of one of my favorite parts of this movie, because I think they did not care about these cars at all. Like one
of them was a Mercedes. I didn't see what the other one was.
Well, they're like, it was like a Mercedes, but they're like, they look like 80s European junkers. Like, they just don't, I don't think the producers of this movie cared about these cars at all. So they bump them, they flip them, they crash them into stuff. The car chase ends when Seagal like jumps his car into a mannequin store. Like, it's just a storefront full of naked
Seagal's
mannequins.
car.
It's
the other
one of the
guy.
bad guys drives it in there.
Oh,
And
one of the
Seagal
bad
just
guys.
gets out of his car and like chases the guy into the store. Gets the guy as he.
It is
escapes the store.
confusing though, because they don't show the bad guy. Like, they just
I don't
show
know
the
which
car
car is
flying
his.
through the window.
Yeah.
But they didn't show, like, usually they'd show a shot of the bad guy, like, oh no. They didn't do that.
I can't
Like,
tell
they
who's
would
in what car.
wait, Hans, you mean like they would just show like a half-second close-up of Mike Ehrmantraut's face just going like as he crashes the train like into the other train? That's what you're saying this movie was missing?
Can we watch Under Siege 2 again?
Man.
Yeah. We're gonna have to make a very short list of the movies here that we would actually rewatch. For me, it's like literally Under Siege 2 and The Foreigner.
Yeah.
For me, it's gotta be The Foreigner. I didn't.
But just the parts of Dunoir, which thankfully is
Yeah,
like
just
half
the parts.
the Dunoir
the
cut.
parts that
The boudoir cut, as Hans would call it.
I couldn't remember his
Do you have
name.
any other?
I wasn't trying to be a jerk. I just
No, you're
couldn't
fine.
remember the character's
Do you
name.
have any other random notes?
Well, no, I really liked that car chase, actually.
Yeah.
Mike, I have another question.
It was fine. It was one of the better parts of the movie.
I have a question. Does anybody know what happened to that Jesus neon? The neon sign about Jesus?
It made me laugh. That's what happened. I couldn't tell anything else about it.
Can we buy it? Does it exist out there in the world?
Like,
Yeah,
just
I mean,
picture
they made that.
like a Las Vegas like glowing neon sign that says like Jesus is the Savior or something like that.
Jesus is the light of the world.
Yeah, outside like an Eastern European church, I guess.
Directly across the street from that nightclub where
Yeah.
everybody got shot and where they sell heroin.
No, yeah, that was funny to me. That made me laugh.
One quick correction: we keep saying heroin, but it's cocaine.
Is it cocaine?
In the IMDb page,
I am
it says
100%
cocaine.
certain they said heroin. No,
all the
Wikipedia
drugs
says
that you
heroin.
see- all of the drugs that you
Really?
see in this movie look like bags of sand. Like,
Yeah, no, yeah, they don't. Yeah.
Well, hold on. Maybe I'm wrong then. Hang on. Let me look it back up.
whose page do we need to edit? IMDb
Yeah,
or
one of these is going to be
Wikipedia?
fixing.
Because I already have one Wikipedia edit.
IMDb says an unsuspecting university professor is an unwitting accomplice in a foiled Chinese cocaine deal.
Interesting.
Interesting.
Because the Out for Kill Wikipedia page, which by the way, the opening plot description is very funny to me. Whoever wrote this, like, clearly like had very little patience for this movie, or like, was just kind of in on the joke. Because it starts off, Wang Dai, an influential Chinese drug kingpin, sits at a long table in an old building in Paris, France, going through the motions of a gigantic merger between himself and several other major Chinese drug dealers. I love that the description just says, going through the motions of this.
Bravo to you.
But it says Silo controls shipments in the French heroin market in Paris, using laundromats all over Paris as a front. So I assumed it was all heroin.
Interesting.
It really doesn't
Okay.
matter. It's just drugs.
Drugs.
It really doesn't matter. It's
It
just
is drugs.
drugs.
TM. That is what is in this movie.
Yeah.
Um,
I already mentioned that he uses a katana to kill the final bad guy.
Oh, it is actually the thing. Like I said, I mentioned this at the start. It's very funny. So he's in the fight with the bad guy. It has to be the most underwhelming one we've seen so far, and we've seen a lot of really underwhelming and bad guy fights because they're in the room together. The guy sets off an explosive that doesn't actually it just lights the room on fire, but just mildly annoys Seagal. It kind of knocks him over, but then he's back up. He's clearly not dead, and the guy just leaves. So Seagal just grabs a katana. He opens the window. He sees he's on the second or third floor. He sees the bad guy standing outside next to his limo on ground level, and Seagal just the window's opened a 5-inch crack, but he just whips this katana out the window.
Like boomerangs.
He just like, boomerangs it, like, disc golfs it out, and it like it like decapitates the guy. And sincerely, like, it looks like a 2008 like YouTube like sketch video, like the way you would film one of those, because it just cuts him and you just see like this mannequin head hit the ground and then his body slump over, and the limousine. Yeah. It doesn't even like tire squeal out of there. It just kind of just drives off. It's just like and like leaves. And then he like rescues the documents before the whole place like burns
Don't want any part of that.
But
not paid enough for this
crap. The
death
scene, I did go back and like watch this 5 times because I'm like, no, it wasn't that bad. And it truly is. Like, Smosh had better special effects than this when I was in middle school.
Oh boy.
I'm not even joking.
This ain't Rocket Jump Studios here.
No.
It's Luminosity.
Oh my god. If they had Freddie Wong on this, that ending would have looked so much better. I'm not even joking.
Hey, Freddie, if you want to hit me up, I'll be the script doctor on these. We can refilm them.
Shot for shot remake of every Seagal movie.
Yeah, you, me, Corridor Digital, maybe, and Rocket Jump. Let's do it.
Yeah, make it happen.
Make it happen.
We'll do a Dungeons and Daddies crossover.
I know he's a listener.
Yeah. We'll have Freddie come on to Steven Seagal. One of us will appear on Dungeons and Daddies. It'll be a whole tie-in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Brand deal integration.
Amen.
Any other thoughts on the movie?
Oh my god,
we're dreaming big here.
I had to go back and look at the decapitation scene again, and it's man.
We haven't talked.
I don't think I really understood just how bad this was. Really I don't think I really paid attention to this the first time.
It's awful.
Wow.
Oh my god.
Wow. Oh my goodness. The sword flying through the air is so absurd.
Oh, okay. Wait a second. Okay. So, well,
he throws it over his shoulder, so it should go end over end, but it ends up coming out of the window like sideways like a frisbee.
So let me blow your all's mind here.
Okay.
So, oh my gosh. Okay, so the guy... Wait a second. Director of photography on this movie, Mark Vargo.
Okay.
Before he did Out for a Kill, he did Mouse Hunt, which has a special place in my heart.
That sounds a good movie.
Deep Impact, Stuart Little, The Green Mile, The Patriot.
Wait, the Steven Seagal Patriot or
no,
the Mel Gibson Patriot?
Oh, the Mel Gibson Patriot.
Okay, there we go. I asked.
Cats and Dogs, Stuart Little too, but whatever. And then he did Out for a Kill, for some reason. And then
who is this?
The director Mark Vargo, the director of photography.
Wait, did you? It seems like there was another big one that he worked on.
Well.
He did visual effects work on Ghostbusters, the original Ghostbusters.
Yeah, well, and then he was the director of photography, at least in the second unit. So for a lot of the movies after this, he wasn't like the director of photography. He was one of the directors of photography. Like he was on like a secondary team that did this. So like he was on the secondary team for Looney Tunes Back in Action, Garfield, Catwoman, The Ring 2,
Wait, when you
Poseidon.
Say Garfield, you mean like the live action Boomerang Garfield?
Like the live action Garfield.
Cool.
310 to Yuma.
Oh, okay.
G-Force. Rise of the Planet of the Apes. Alvin and the Chipmunks, Chipwrecked, Ted, White House Down, Transcendence, Hocus Pocus 2. Huh.
Zach's been nodding his head this whole time, and as soon as Hocus Pocus 2 comes up, it stops.
But like that's such an interesting career.
Yeah.
It started out really, really good, but I think that I've found a couple people like this where like the inflection point seems to have been the Seagal movie.
Like it's not necessarily that everyone was saying, no, you worked on Out for a Kill. You know, it's Garfield, Tale of Two Kitties for you from now on. But it's more so like just, okay, it's kind of, this is the type of work he was getting. And like Seagal seems to be like the beginning of it just because of the time period. I'm not actually going to assume that it was because he did a Seagal movie. I mean, but even the other ones there that you said later on, like, with the exception of maybe Hocus Pocus 2, all of those are better than, like, your average, like, Seagal movie.
Yeah. And then, like, a couple of the people, like, a couple of the actors in here, like, Dave Wong, like, he was in The Death of Stalin,
Ooh.
Skyfall.
Like, I'm just going to go back to Mark Rogo for a second just to put some respect on his name. So it does say that, so you mentioned all where he was like director of photography. He was nominated in the category of best visual effects for his work on Ghostbusters, and he shared the nomination with like 3 other people. So he's an Academy Award nominated
awesome.
visual effects artist. And he also worked at Industrial Light and Magic, contributing to the efforts that won the company 4 consecutive Academy Awards for visual effects.
Well, dang.
Even before he had this director of photography career, the cinematographer career, he was very accomplished, like at least in some way responsible for 5 Academy Award nominations for visual effects.
And then he did a Seagal movie.
And we're not saying that's why it went all downhill, but it certainly didn't help.
But it seems to be very strongly correlated.
What's the quote? Isn't it from
Arrested
Development?
I don't want to say it was 9/11, but it didn't help things.
That's not funny, but the
and then there were a couple people in this movie who, like, I vaguely remember, like in the last movie, we're getting into the territory of like people that looked vaguely familiar to me, but I couldn't pin it down. So like Tom Wu was in Batman Begins as Bhutanese prison guard number 1, just like in the background. But some other famous. He was also in Skyfall. He was in Red 2, Kick-Ass 2.
Wait, who is this?
Tom Wu.
Oh, okay.
He played in this movie.
Lebo.
Lebo.
Have you talked about Corey Johnson yet?
That's my next one. I think he's the biggest star we get out of this one. Because I definitely recognized him, but I couldn't tell you what he was from. He was in several of the Jason Bourne movies. He was in Morbius, which I never saw, but that was a big. It was a big movie. It was a big movie. Let's leave.
They brought it back to theaters a second time. That's how big it was.
Flopped twice. But
it'll always be funny.
Corey Johnson's been in a whole bunch of stuff. I was looking
Hellboy,
through here and I can't
Kingsman,
remember
Captain
what it was.
Phillips, Ex Machina.
Kingsman.
He was a heck of a lot better in the Bourne Ultimatum than he was in this movie.
Yeah, he was in the Bourne movies. Because I remember when he comes on screen, I'm like, I know this guy. I know him from something.
Oh, actually, speaking of, earlier I mentioned The Mummy. He was in The Mummy.
He was in The Mummy. He was in an episode of Doctor Who.
Was there anybody in this one that was in the Super Mario Bros. Live action movie?
Yet.
Not that I've been able to find, but Corey Johnson.
Is it the first one that doesn't have that?
No, I think there were probably some other ones. I don't think literally every single movie has had the Super Mario Brothers movie.
No, not everyone. Corey Johnson, what I finally figured out what I recognize him from is that he is in Hellboy.
Yes.
The 2004 Hellboy. He is Hellboy's caretaker. He's the agent in charge of getting him snacks and stuff.
Okay.
Agent Clay.
Okay.
Who was very funny.
But I think we did say we had one of the people in this movie was in CSI, Crime Scene Investigation, at one point.
Oh, Corey Johnson was in Saving Private Ryan.
He was also in Killzone 2 and Connect Sports. And Xenoblade Chronicles 2? Okay.
And Total War Warhammer 3. But, I mean, some of these people have done stuff.
Wow,
and
the most non-committal sentence of all time.
Well, there are also, there are several, foreign actors that I can look at their IMDb page, but I can't tell you if that's successful or not. I don't know about these foreign projects. The woman who plays Maya, Seagal's wife in this movie. I have no idea if she's been in a whole bunch of stuff. She's still making things, but I don't know if it's any good. It's all in Hungarian. I'm not up to date on my Hungarian filmmaking. That's my fault for not knowing that. But
that's are you talking about? Sorry, I just want to make sure I have the right person. Oh no, never mind. Elaine.
Let's just assume that they're
Elaine
good.
Tan.
That have to be better than this.
Elaine
movie.
Tan, who played Louis, she was in CSI Crime Scene Investigation. So
yes,
we have a connection to CSI Crime Scene Investigation or Super Mario Brothers movie. As long as we have one of those, we're good. And we have CSI Crime Scene Investigation.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's what it was. Yeah. It was, but it was Kata, the actress that plays Maya Burns, his wife. We finally named her because We're just saying good things about her from now on. She was also in an episode of CSI Crime Scene Investigation. So 2 of the actresses in this movie were in CSI Crime Scene Investigation for one episode.
There you go.
So there we go.
I think you can just say CSI.
No. CSI Crime Scene Investigation. I'll give it the full title.
Well, there are a whole bunch of different.
Yeah. Are you talking about CSI New York? Are you talking about CSI Miami? But yeah, I think that is. I am amazed we talked about this movie for this long. I had thought I had so little to say about it. I think I don't really have much to say about this movie. It's forgettable. I did not enjoy it. I wanted it to be over. 1 star.
We've had not much to say about this movie for the last hour and a half.
I understand.
Um,
But if it was just me, if this was a solo pod, it would be like a 5-minute episode, I think.
Yeah, I mean, don't watch this.
Do not.
Like we said at the top of this episode, like this is a very close runner-up to worst Seagal movie so far.
And
Definitely.
the only movie so far that it is better than, we need to reiterate, is one that was quite literally like half footage from other movies that they hastily assembled because they stopped production partway through.
Filmed in a week, wasn't it?
Yeah. Ooh, oh, yeah. No, it was something like, it was like
The
12
parts
days
that
or
they
something.
actually
Yeah.
did film.
It was like 12 days or
12
something.
days.
That this movie, by virtue of actually being a movie that, as far as I can tell, everything that was in this movie was filmed for this movie, makes it better. That is just about it.
Yeah.
It is not better in really any other way. So what's your star rating?
1
It's
star.
like half a star, maybe.
Okay. We agree on this one. I'm glad.
It's
the Steven Seagal is about the friends you make along the way.
out for a kill, more like definitely killed me. Out for a kill, more like I'm out of here for a nap instead of watching this movie.
Got him.
I don't know why it's out for a kill. Like that just
They should have called it out for
there's
got
like
11
50
kills.
guys in this movie.
If you will actually title the movie Out for 11 Kills, I'd be more interested. I'd be like, okay, it's very specific.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see those 11 kills. Yeah, out for a kill. More like out for a...
Or like Danger Under the Water, or like...
Actually, you know how people talk about how, like, there will be blood in No Country for Old Men, like each movie has the wrong title that should be swapped. I think it would make more sense if you swapped Out for a Kill and The Foreigner. Like, if you switch those 2 titles.
Actually,
Yeah.
If in this one
yeah.
he was The Foreigner, I mean, sure, it makes just as much sense here as it did there, but Out for a Kill for the last one, like, that would, I think, genuinely make more sense.
Yeah.
Honestly.
So yeah, join us next week for the second movie produced by Luminosity Productions, also known as Steamroller Productions, Belly of the Beast. 2003, his third movie that released during 2003. Oh boy, does it feel like he made 3 movies in 1 year. Directed by...
And not like in a cool way,
is...
like Danny Trejo.
No. Alright, join us next week for Belly of the Beast, which is all about Steven Seagal's increasingly large belly as these movies go on. Does that work? Is that bad?
That seems a little, I don't know, mean-spirited maybe.
Yeah.
Out for a Kill sucked.
Yeah, you tell him. Thanks, Hans.
That means one of us has to die.
I wasn't recording him when I said that. Man. It's like I'm a professional.